I think one thing that parents have not yet figured out is that comparing children to their siblings is actually very, very bad. Not only can it foster sibling rivalry, but then it can also make you, have this low self-esteem where you constantly compare yourself to other people. I mean, I'm actually speaking from personal experience, but in my own case, thankfully it never created sibling rivalry in our family. But then generally, these kind of things can cause a sense of low self-worth. Another thing that also causes low self-worth that parents don't seem to realize is that kind of thing where maybe you give your parents your report card when you're younger, and okay, you get like a C, right, or like a B, and since you didn't get an A, they won't praise you for that one. Parents wait to praise you for like when you do something that is so great, or something that they really really see as, and you've exceeded the expectations, and then they now praise you for that one. But I think parents need to learn that it's actually good. From You should, like, when a child is young, you need to always be praising them for, even though it's just little things. That way it can foster, like, it helps their self-esteem. There's a difference between praising someone for the little things they do and just always just praising. We're not saying that you should, like, make the person spoiled, or always be just leaving them to live as they want. But at least you need to foster this sense of when the person does something well, you tell the person, good boy, good girl, or kudos to you, or congratulate the person, that sort of thing. Because if you don't do any of this kind of thing, you end up comparing them to their siblings when they're younger, and you don't really praise them for the little achievements that they do. When they grow older, they are not going to have much self-esteem. Like, I'm actually, like I said earlier, I'm speaking from experience here. I was someone that I didn't really get. In fact, I don't think I ever got any praise while growing up. And as a result, when I did my jam, because I actually got, like, to some extent, somewhat a high score, I was very, very surprised. And when I mean I was very, very surprised, it wasn't this kind of, oh my god, I exceeded my expectation. It was like, oh my god, how did I even get, like, how did I get this score? Do you get? I was confused because I didn't think I had a brain. I genuinely didn't think, like, I'm not even trying to be modest or something. I was shocked. I was like, I was shocked, and not in a, oh my god. It was more like, oh my god, you guys, like, it was just it was just really, really bad. And I think these things, parents, they probably are like this because when they also grew up, this was so how their own parents raised them. They also did this whole thing. I mean, I think it's just a very, very common thing in Nigeria. I don't know about other parts of the world, comparing siblings to each other. um and they do that because they feel that it can help ginger you up when you compare yourself to someone. But it actually does the opposite. It now makes you, maybe in your mind, you'll be thinking that you're competing with this person, and that person is your sibling. And then I know, obviously, there's also like all this comparing you to your friends. But what I'm saying is that if you're comparing you to your siblings, is actually the worst, because your siblings are supposed to be your peers. They're supposed to be your people, your cheerleaders. And now making the kids pit themselves against each other is just really, really terrible. And another thing that I would say is caused by the way parents raise their children. It causes this, like, emotional trauma when they grow up, is um people being docile to authorities. Or not even, when I mean authorities, I don't necessarily mean law enforcement agencies. And wherever you are, whoever you see as the authority, the government of the place, you just let your rights be oppressed. Because I don't know, you weren't raised to be assertive, you weren't raised to speak up when you feel that your rights are being oppressed. Basically, you just take it as it is, because you are supposed to respect authority, right? You see them and you say, good morning, sir. And just being very docile and submissive to authorities, basically. And I would say, and this sort of thing, it kind of spills into, in your adult life, when you have, like, work colleagues, and you have even friends. It creates a sense of people pleasing. Okay, so you find it hard to say no to people, you find it hard to say no to your friends. You go to places you don't want to go, you do things you don't want to do, or you not do things you don't want to do. You get, you're just basically doing things because you are scared to, like, step on everyone's foot. You feel that you raising your voice, or you speaking up and showing that your rights have been oppressed, is rude, is a bad thing of you, and you feel guilty if you ever do that in a moment of anger or outburst. And just basically, I think when these things happen to people, we don't really realize how wrong it is, because we've been raised to not see that as wrong, the way we act and everything. And then when you go out into the world and you finally step out and you realize that, oh, this is not how it is. When you meet people that come from healthy families, you begin to observe their life and you realize that they're actually happy, because these things we're doing, this whole people pleasing, this whole, just basically not actually doing what you want to do, just doing what you feel people would prefer, and just trying to please everybody, it doesn't make you happy. Sure, it prevents you from feeling guilty, as far you don't feel guilty that you're not doing anything bad to the person, right? Because you always want to make sure that you are not doing bad things to people. You are not happy, you are unsatisfied, you finally maybe not say no to them, you go to an event you don't want to go to, you come back and you're just angry, and who do you take out the frustration on except yourself, I guess. So that's how it is basically. I think these sort of things, there needs to be conversations we need to have. I mean, I know obviously we can't, change the past with how our parents raised us, but we can actually change it relating to our own children. We can make sure that we don't make this kind of mistakes and pass on emotional trauma to our children. Though at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that our children will not have any issues while growing up. Obviously, they won't have a perfect childhood. I don't think anyone ever has a perfect childhood. But at least once we recognize these little things, we can make sure that we have therapy. We have therapy before we go into the world. So so that's it basically. I think childhood trauma, emotional abuse, all these things, they can actually create who we become as people, as individuals, independent working individuals in society and life. And so many of us, I think if you guys watch this video, you guys will realize that some of all these things I'm mentioning are things that you had, like, this way, the way you were raised, and you're just like, oh, you didn't really realize that it was such an issue till I mentioned this. But basically all these things can be trusted, and it's actually not right. It's not right. It's not right to always try and people please, and it's not always right to not want to step on people's toes. That feeling of guilt is wrong, and it's a feeling that maybe it was entrenched into you while growing up, that you're made to feel guilty for doing. But no, you should actually learn to be assertive and stand up for yourself. It doesn't matter how many people's toes you step on, because those same people, they themselves will stand up for their own rights. If you want to tell them to go where they don't want to go and something, they'll tell you no, and you guys will keep on being friends, because they don't care. Do you get? They don't have that whole guilt thing you had. They are confident in who they are. They know what they want. They know who they are. Why you don't, and it ends up making you feel unhappy with yourself. Now, this comparing thing I mentioned earlier, I think it is I think the thing is, it's not, to some extent I understand why parents do it actually. Sometimes, and when a child is really really, or you just really want a child to be better in some aspects, it makes sense to say, oh, look at this person. Do you get? The child on their own can look at the person and take a leaf from the person's book. They can even ask the person, oh, how do you do this, how do you do that, but it depends on your delivery, the way you say it. If you just say it in a kind of, you're really pitting them against each other, like, look at you, why can't you be more like this person, that why can't you be more like this person, that stuff, that statement is very terrible. If it's something like, do you know that this person is maybe you now even say, oh, he does this, he does, just in a very gentle manner, the person will know that this person is not my rival. I'm not trying to compete with this person, because everyone is built differently. That child that you're saying that, why can't you be more like this person, there are also certain things that that person has that your child has, like, the better value to it or something, and that person does not have. So that's the big danger in comparing. And sometimes parents even compare because they want, maybe they want their child to study something that this other person is studying, but maybe that's not the destiny of the child. Maybe obviously the child would succeed better in a different field or career or something. And what else? I think I wrote these things down because I wanted to talk about it. That's it. And also, coinciding with not being assertive, that whole shyness I mentioned before, we've always seen that shy person in school while we're growing up. we've always seen this, shy person that just likes to keep to themselves and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with being shy. I was actually a shy person while I was in school. I was very, very shy. Everyone knew me as a shy girl, shy, praise God. And but the thing is, if a person is shy, and the person is now not assertive again, then that's where the issue comes on. But it's normal for certain people to be shy. Shyness just means maybe you're very introverted, maybe you have a bit of anxiety or something. But if you're now not assertive, because I've seen people that are shy and they can be assertive too, when their rights are being trampled on. There are people that they seem shy and you mistake their shyness for passiveness or submissiveness, and then when you now try and encroach on their rights, you realize that, oh, that's not the way they are. You're not be like, oh, they are not even shy, but they're actually still shy. Shyness does not necessarily equal to passiveness. Shyness just means you are very, very, very introverted. um then then I think another thing is, other people that have a role to play in helping a person that it deals with all this lack of assertiveness and stuff. I think our friends. I While I was also someone that was not very assertive while growing up, I did have a friend that was even less assertive than I was, and because of her, I don't know where, but my whole assertiveness came when it had to do with me seeing her rights being trampled on. I mean, my rights were also being trampled on, but I had this like protective thing with her because she was like worse than me in that aspect. So I would really, really stand up for her, and I think our friends need to do that. That's what our friends are for. They are there to not just defend us, but also to point out these things also we can grow as individuals. You not pointing out your flaws, you not pointing out your friend's flaws to her or him, is actually does actually make you a bad friend. It actually makes you a bad friend. Yeah. um Being a friend is not just all about like enjoying the person's company or something. It's also about helping the person become a better person. Point out each other's flaws. That's something that I think people don't seem to realize, that friendship is not just about enjoyment. There's also responsibilities. There are also duties you do because you love this person, right? And you want them to become better people in the society. But anyway, I'm digressing. I mainly wanted to talk about mental health today, and just basically how most of the issues that people face. Because the funny thing is, this sort of like emotional trauma, this abuse and stuff that goes on to adults, these behaviors can actually cause you to miss out on so many opportunities in life. Maybe okay, I actually had a personal experience, so okay, let me be vague about it, but basically there was this person that was supposed to give me something, and I was not very assertive about it. So I was trying to be modest because I wasn't like I was I never really felt that I deserved any gift or anything I was being given. I felt guilty or bad for receiving a gift. I could not receive gifts, like, and I think I've also heard from one of my friends that, yeah, this is something she also deals with, being unable to receive gifts. Like, when someone wants to give you a gift, you don't want to accept it. You don't even know how to ask for gifts if they give you the opportunity to say, okay, ask for whatever you want. And it's actually wrong. It shows a lack of self-love, because loving yourself also means accepting gifts or requesting for gifts too, as long as the person is giving you the opportunity to, whether it's your parents or your friends or your romantic partner or anyone. You get, there's nothing wrong with receiving gifts. It doesn't mean you won't give gifts, obviously, but there's nothing wrong with receiving gifts. Don't ever feel like you are not entitled to receive gifts, because every other person is also receiving gifts. So the experience I had was that the person, I was working at that time, and the person wanted to give me a gift. It was quite an expensive thing, so I was feeling really, really somehow about it. Not necessarily because of the price or something. It's just the whole gift giving thing. So I was very hesitant to accept it, and then there was also someone with me, and then since I was being very hesitant, she kind of like was able to push me to getting it, and she was like, it's for both of us. And then it now became for both of us because she said it was for both of us, and the person wanted to give me and stuff. And I literally, like, I was obviously smiling and stuff, and we shared it and stuff, but I was actually not happy because, like, I mean, I know obviously it was me, that my fault and stuff, but I was obviously not happy. That's just what I'm saying. Because I was not assertive enough, I stopped, just let this person take this thing that belongs to me. and I was, I had to smile because I'll feel guilty if I'm like rude to the person. But at the same time, I was not happy. It didn't give me happiness. I mean, I wanted this thing. I actually wanted this thing that this person was giving me, and so that's it. Basically, this whole thing is can make you miss out on opportunities. This time it won't just be gifts. It might be like a job offer or something. Like if you're not an assertive person, someone else that is more assertive than you, someone else that does not have that issue will just do it. And you can't blame the person actually. Obviously you'll be angry at the person, but you can't blame the person. It's not their fault that they came from like a family where they didn't have an issue with being assertive. So they were raised that way and they were able to, grab any opportunity they see and stuff like that. So you just need to learn from the person and just try to make sure that it does not happen again to you. And yeah. Then what else? Another thing also is even when you are speaking up about another thing that me personally experience I had was while I was in university. I found it hard to speak on the WhatsApp group. That's the info group for the like class and stuff. And it's not like I didn't have things to say at times. At times I had things to say. I had my opinion too. I had questions asked, and I'll just be telling my friends to text it for me because I'm feeling anxious about being judged. I feel like people are obviously I know no one is even watching me. Even on the road that you're walking that you feel judged, no one is actually watching you. Everyone is going about their own business. Everyone is doing their own thing. But me on my own, I now feel like I feel like everyone is like judging me and oh anytime I write anything on that group, what 300 and something, everyone will just be looking, she has written something, but no one is actually, everyone is just minding their own business. So my friends used to do it for me, Sha. I think they were just like a very few times I gathered up the courage, and that was because I felt that no one would like notice at that time because other people were also doing the same thing. So, but most of the time, most of these things all stemmed from a lack of self worth because every other person that is doing all these things that you're unable to do, they're not better than you. Everybody is a human being at the end of the day. Everyone has flesh, everyone has blood, everyone has bones, everyone has muscles. So they're not better than you in any way. If everybody is judging you, they are also judging other people. But you just need to learn to, and I'm also telling myself, you just need to learn to just do things without thinking about what other people will think, because the more you think about that, the more you just remain in your head overthinking, and the opportunities will pass you by. And that's it basically. You need to learn to, but there's certain people also that this sort of things actually creates more issues than these little ones I mentioned. There's some people that these issues create them to have actual mental health issues, creates them to have depression, so many other things that they have to go for therapy and they have to take, drugs for. And that's it. Luckily that won't be our portion. Though I've mentioned before that I did have depression. Um so let me see if there's any other thing. Okay, so I've mentioned comparing children to their siblings, low self-worth, people pleasing with friends and colleagues and romantic partners, and I've mentioned finding out how to accept gifts or help, and not speaking up when you're oppressed, anxiety, believe you're being judged, not being assertive and being shy, and lack of praise. So that is basically a recap of what I wanted to talk about today. In my previous video, which please I really hope you watch, is actually very interesting. I took out a lot of time to speak with Daisy about it. In my previous video I talked about a bunch of other topics. I also mentioned mental health, but I really mentioned like 2 minutes and just brushed on it with Daisy, my friend. The previous video is that video I made with a friend, but this is like a more in-depth listening into mental health, though this topic I'm talking about is not just mental health. I'm focusing more on like childhood trauma, emotional abuse, and how it affects people in their adulthood and all those signs and stuff. And in another video, because mental health is a very interesting topic to me, something that with time you understand how much important it is to me. So yeah, that's all basically. And till next time, bye.